There are three file syncing options that become available when you install the RouterOS package. They're all based on this command line utility called rsync. That tool is meant for Unix-like systems, so you could use it straight out of the terminal on your Linux or Mac computer. Or to get it working in Windows, you could use the Windows subsystem for Linux, WSL. But don't worry, you don't have to install anything, or even learn anything about rsync if you don't want to. We have a simplified, easy to set up sync solution that only uses rsync in the background. Before I get into the configuration, let's quickly go over the basic mechanics of rsync so that we are on the same page and you can better choose which of the sync options is right for you. The rsync command works similarly to a simple copy command, but it is a lot more advanced. Most importantly, it can compare files at two locations and not only skip files that already exist, but it can also overwrite differences in existing files without having to transfer the whole file. So let's say you have two devices both with rsync installed and you want to synchronize some files. Here's how it could work. You log into one of them and have it request a download from the other device or push an upload. So the first nuance is that you can initiate the file transfer from both of your devices. It doesn't matter which one, as you can transfer both ways. But what you have to consider is how the connection gets established. At least one of the two devices needs to listen for incoming connection attempts, so it needs to run a service with an exposed port or two. But there is an interesting twist to it, as you can use a secure shell as well. So there is this rsync-daemon that can run in the background and listen to connection attempts and transfer data in plain text, but most people don't use it as they already have an SSH server running. The rsync tool can open an SSH connection to another device and access the necessary rsync functionality on that side. As a result, the file transfer makes use of the SSH encryption and there is no need to run a separate service. Both of those options can work with RouterOS, and you can use them when you want to synchronize files between RouterOS and a device running a different operating system. I will demonstrate both of them towards the end of the video, but let's start with the third option, the MikroTik way. If you need to synchronize files between two RouterOS devices, we have a simple, easy to understand solution called sync that will automatically synchronize your files once every minute. Furthermore, the data transfer will happen through an encrypted IPsec tunnel. There is an exception, however. If you are using your devices without a password configured, then IPsec will not be used and the transfer will be plaintext. For everything to work, we have to first make sure that the Winbox port 8291 is not blocked by the firewall. And if we want to make use of the IPsec encryption, then we also need to make sure that the UDP port 500 and the IPsec ESP protocol 50 are also allowed. The configuration is very straightforward. Let's say I'm saving some files onto the RB5009 and I want them to get backed up to the CCR. On the RB5009, I would probably just configure it through the CLI by going to the File Sync section and typing add. All the properties are there and it would be configured in one command. But we have a nice GUI now, so let's open the Files window instead. You can see I have already created a directory inside it. There is a single file that we could back up. Now let's open the Sync tab and click on the New. We need to add the remote address to my CCR. Then we can select the mode, either to request files or to just send them to the other address. Upload is the correct choice on this side. The local path is the location of your file or directory that you want to sync. The remote path could be left empty to just use the main storage location, but I have an NVMe drive in the CCR, so I will use that. And finally, the credentials of the user that will be storing the files on the other side. If that user has no password, the IPsec will not get established and it will be a plaintext transfer. Click OK. A new entry will show up and you should observe a nice real-time status change. Once it says in sync, your file should be copied. On the other device, I now have my directory and its contents duplicated on the NVMe drive. The Sync tab is now also displaying an entry that is dynamic, and the mode is download instead of upload. Very straightforward. Now let's consider the regular sync options. By just having the ROS package installed and an SSH service enabled on our router, we can exchange files with it just like we would with any other Unix server with SSH. On my computer, if I want to explore files available on my router, I can use the regular rsync command like so. Okay, there is an NVMe1 directory. Further inside it, we find my directory. I want to sync that to my computer. To do it, I will use the avh flags. You can read more about what they mean online. For a single file transfer, they are not mandatory. Next, we need the address and location as before. This tells rsync I want the whole folder. A slash at the end would tell it I want only the contents of the folder. And next, I just need the local storage location. I have created a folder called demo. That does it. In my demo folder, there is now my directory containing my file. If I wanted to flip the direction of the transfer and send files to my router, I could do that very easily. Let's take another file and use rsync. This time, no flags, just a file name followed by the remote SSH location. Now when I check my router, I have another file there. Finally, if you want to use the plaintext rsync-daemon mode, just go to the Sync tab and look for the configuration rsync-daemon. Once you enable it, you can go back to your computer and transfer yet another file. This time the syntax is a little different. The remote location will start with rsync : and then after the IP you want to type /data. That should execute a plaintext transfer and the file should show up in the main file section on your router. Alright, that is all 3 sync options covered. If you found this useful, but you are not yet subscribed, make sure you click the subscribe button. We make interesting educational videos all the time.